Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Rosie Rose Reads. I am Rosie and I am reading. Today I have a monthly wrap-up video for the month of May, and I am so excited because it feels like I have not filmed in forever. At least I haven't put a video up. I am currently working on a vlog, trying to push through some of my NetGalley arcs that I have, so once I'm through with those, that vlog will go up. A couple of those arcs will be included in today's video, which is super exciting. But I am so excited. I also had a really wonderful May reading-wise, which was surprising because, I don't know, May felt like it took forever for me, and I don't know. But I read 21 books this month, which is the best reading month that I have had in a really long time. I did read some shorter books, some graphic novels, a poetry book, which you will see when we get into the video, but I read 7,613 pages. My average rating for books was 4.12 stars. So I had some hits, I had some not so hits, but you will see that when we dive into the books. So let's get started. Before we do, if you haven't liked and subscribed, make sure you do that so when my future videos come up, you are notified. Yeah, let's get started. So the first book that I read is Above Ground by Clint Smith, and this is Clint Smith's newest release. It's a collection of poetry, and it's really beautiful. If any of you have poetry-loving fathers, I would highly recommend this for Father's Day. It's all about kind of Clint Smith's experience with fatherhood, and with being a Black man in America, and a whole variety of things. If you don't know Clint Smith, he is a historian, and he is really kind of leading the way in the conversation about historical memory of slavery in the United States and monuments, kind of popular memory, that stuff. So a little bit of that is sprinkled into this as well. I listened to this audio. Clint Smith does the narration, and I also read the physical copy, and I highly recommend that. I know that's not accessible to everybody, but I really recommend you do it that way if you can get it from the library or something like that, because poetry is such a special thing to be heard, to hear the author speak their words into poetry, but then also the way that it's written visually kind of can also play into the meaning of the poems as well. So I gave this one 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Clint Smith is an auto-buy author. I will read everything that he writes, always. He also has lots of articles that he has done for The Atlantic in addition to his books. So I will always read Clint Smith. I love him. The next book that I read was Curated by Nellie Wilson. I don't know how I came across this book, but I am so glad that I did. It follows our main character, who is a curator at a historical house museum in Colorado, in a fictional town in Colorado. If you don't know, I'm from Colorado, and I also used to work in a historic house, do public history, know about curation and things like that. So this book just felt like it was written for me. And the plot of the book is the historic museum and part of the university that she works at the funding is being cut, so they have to combine forces with the science museum and combine forces and combine space and kind of rethink the way that they are doing things. And she's not a big fan of that, so she kind of is the grump to our sunshine science curator geologist. So they have a super cute romance story, and I loved the historic references. I love the Colorado references. I absolutely love this book. The next book in the series, which is the Best Friends book, comes out later this month. I think this month or next month. It comes out later this year. And that is called Educated, also by Nellie Wilson. So I am so excited to read that one. The next book that I read, I'm going to talk about these 3 together. I didn't read them all together, but they go together, so I'm going to talk about them. And that is the Tea Dragon Society kind of like little trilogy. So it's the Tea Dragon Society, the Tea Dragon Festival, and the Tea Dragon Tapestry, all by Kay O'Neill. And these are all graphic novels. I think they're all maybe middle grade geared towards, but the art is just so beautiful. The story is heartwarming and like really important and super diverse and reflective, and like I didn't expect to get as emotional as I did reading these graphic novels geared towards middle grade kids, but they hit me. And like I said, the illustrations are just beautiful. The story is beautiful. I was sad there was only 3. I just wanted to keep going, but they were wonderful. I rated them all 5 stars, and I highly recommend them. If you see them, if you can get them from the library, they were great. The next book that I read was 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and I had seen this like discussed very briefly in some spaces about fantasy books. I think where I actually saw it, there was a filter you could do that was like guess the cover, and somebody had guessed 6 Crimson Cranes and then said it was a good book. So it was kind of on my radar, but I didn't know much about it. And I picked up the audio version from the library, and I just really enjoyed it. It follows our main character, Shiori, and she is a princess. She has 6 older brothers, and her father is the emperor, and she has kind of a flawed, tumultuous relationship with her stepmother, and eventually her stepmother turns her brothers into cranes, and she also kind of curses Shiori with a bowl over her head, and Shiori can't speak, and she has to make her way, and the person who ends up giving her help is the person who she was betrothed to, who she stood up at their betrothal ceremony. So this book follows her. This book is great for people who like really love a strong character and character growth and character thought and not as much plot. There obviously is plot, but since Shiori's not speaking, there's less dialogue, and we are really with Shiori for the bulk of the book. I really enjoyed it. I immediately picked up The Dragon's Promise, which is the second book in that duology, and this follows Shiori as her and Takan, her betrothed, have to deal with the ramifications of the curse being lifted and magic being brought back and what that means. And it was so fun. It was super adventurous and a great way to wrap up the duology, and I just really enjoyed it. There is a prequel that is coming out that I believe is about the stepmother in this book, who we learn a lot more about in The Dragon's Promise. But I'm excited to see what Elizabeth Lim does with that, because the world that she has created in these stories is so fun, so beautiful, so kind of ethereal feeling. It'll be really exciting to read that one as well. The next book that I read was a nonfiction book called Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And that is a nonfiction book. It's both a nonfiction book and a memoir. Our author is a botanist by training and kind of talks about not only her knowledge of plants and the environment and ecology and everything in that realm, but also indigenous knowledge and scientific knowledge, and also her experiences of being an indigenous woman. It was super powerful. I listened to the audiobook of this and it was very long. I think I might have been a little bit more engaged had I picked up the print copy. But if you are looking for a nonfiction book to read, if you're looking for a memoir book to read, if you're looking for something that really is like a love letter to our earth, and I would really recommend this book. I was still in a fantasy mood, so I picked up The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. This was my first Shannon Chakraborty book. She wrote the Davabad trilogy, The City of Brass, under S.A. Chakraborty. And I did just recently get that in one of my haul videos. I found it at the thrift store. But I was super excited. She was a new to me author, and this book delivered. Amina al-Sarafi is a legendary pirate, and she becomes a mother and wants to retire and take a step back. But when the daughter of one of the people from her past goes missing, she kind of dives back into this world that she had left behind for one last epic adventure, and she kind of has to get the gang back together for this adventure. And I really enjoyed this one. It was wonderful representation of a mother and a middle-aged woman in fantasy, which we normally don't see. Wonderful representation of a Muslim woman as our main character, and like, she was just badass. And the character Raksh, I believe is how it's pronounced, was so funny, and the banter between Amina and Raksh I just loved and I wanted more of, but it was so good. Yeah, so I can't wait to read A City of Brass after I read this one. I know that they're different, but I really enjoyed this author's writing and am looking forward to reading more from her in the future. Another really, really, really high point of the month was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If you are anywhere in booktube, bookstagram, anything like that, you will have seen this book. I wasn't convinced that I was gonna read it, and then I was out in Richmond. We went to visit our friends, and we were at a bookshop downtown, and we saw these books, and I saw in person the sprayed edges, and I was at like an indie bookstore, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get the sprayed edges. It was before I knew that the sprayed edges are kind of limited. They're only on the first run, and I believe like that's kind of sold out now, the first run, and they're not doing sprayed edges for the next couple runs. So I am so glad I got it when I did. And my friend that I was with picked it up as well. So that's exciting because I loved this book. I loved it so much. It follows our main character, Violet Sorringale, and she is conscripted into Basgaith War College. She always thought she was going to be a scribe because she has a disability, and her father was a scribe, but her father passed away about a year ago, I think, when this book takes place. And her mother is General Sorringale and the head of Basgaith War College, and has decided that Violet actually is going to be conscripted into the Riders Quadrant. The Riders Quadrant, yes, you guessed it, means they ride dragons. If you enjoyed Divergent, but you wish it had dragons, and you wish it had dragons that talked and had amazing personalities, this book is for you. I loved it. Everybody has enjoyed it that I've seen. It was so fun. I don't know what to say about it that other people probably haven't said about it already, but the representation was like also cool. In addition to the adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, another type of character we don't typically see in fantasy is a character with disability. So that was really exciting. And yeah, I finished reading it and then picked it up and started reading it out loud to my husband almost immediately. So we are about halfway on me reading it out loud to him. So it's probably going to be in the June wrap-up video as well. But Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, my holy grail right here. So after Fourth Wing, of course, I picked it up, was rereading it. That was when I read the rest of the Tea Dragon Society graphic novels, because I was like kind of in a slump. I was like, what do I read now? I also picked up The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, which has been on my shelf for a long time. I think I picked this up at a little free library, and I have some other books by her, and I was super excited to read her. But this book just did not hit for me, unfortunately. The miscommunication in this was just like drastic. There's a certain level of miscommunication that works in like fake dating to kind of prolong the like, I don't know if we should get together, maybe he doesn't like me as much as I think he does, that sort of thing. But like the miscommunication in this book was just another level that like really took me out of the story. The fake dating was over very quickly, and then after that it felt like the book just stalled out. So this one was not it for me. I do have other books by this author, and I've heard really wonderful things about them, and friends have recommended them. So I'm looking forward to the other books, and I think that maybe a different plot and different setup will be a better fit for me and Jasmine Gilroy's books, because I was very disappointed that this one wasn't it for me. But that's okay. It happens sometimes. So after a like not so strong book, I was really hoping for a hit, and I picked up Adelaide, and it was kind of a mixed bag. I think I gave it like 3.5 stars. I kind of felt iffy about it. The author's note at the beginning, which is kind of a disclaimer that says like, obviously authors' lives inform the book, and while some things she might resonate with, not everything is a personal experience, it is fiction. But what she definitely resonated with is that the feelings were there, and the feelings were here with this book. It was raw, it was hard to sit with at times, it was a little uncomfortable at times, but like even what I couldn't connect to with Adelaide as an experience that I had experienced, what I could connect to is kind of some of the same feelings that she was having. The book is written in a very interesting and unique style that I hadn't really read before, and I really enjoyed that. It kept it super intriguing, and the framing was really intriguing. You kind of know what happens at the end right at the very beginning, but what you don't know is how we got to that point. So that kept me really intrigued, and I really, really loved the ending of this book. So there were some things that like weren't super big hits with me, but also like there were some things that I really loved. After Adelaide, I did have a hit, and that hit was A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I had seen this book everywhere during the trans rights readathon. I placed it on hold with Libby, with my library through Libby, and it finally came through, and wow, did it come through. I really enjoyed this book. This book follows our two main characters, and growing up, they were best friends, and they both joined the army, and they were both in the Battle of Waterloo. And for the Duke of Gracewood, the Battle of Waterloo marked the beginning of the worst 2 years of his life. An injury, mental health, grief, the loss of his lifelong best friend, and a period of depression. But for Viola, Waterloo marked the chance to leave the life she was born into behind and embrace the chance to live the life she was supposed to be living. And when our two characters are then thrust back together and like reconnect and fall in love, and like it just gave me all of the feels. It was so good. The Duke of Gracewood is like so swoon worthy. I loved him. There were so many swoony moments. Sorry, the dog is whining again. She's hungry. I'm gonna go feed her. I'm coming back to talk about the Duke of Gracewood because I love him. Okay, the dog has been fed. I am back to talk about the Duke of Gracewood. This book. The healing in this book was incredible. The absolute like unequivocal love that Gracewood has, the way Viola is the only person that can like bring Gracewood back to himself and make him want to live and feel alive. It was so good. And it was spicy. Like, Alexis Hall is doing the damn thing, let me tell you. Okay, while I was reading all of these books, my husband and I were listening to the audiobook of Queen of Shadows, the fourth book in, again, fourth or fifth, depending on where you count the Assassin's Blade, book in the Throne of Glass. And definitely like the best book to that point. Between 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's the best. and sets up the rest of the series really well. So we are on to our tandem read of Empire of Storm and Tower of Dawn. Yeah, I'm trying to like rapid fire through these. So we are back. Okay. Next book, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I hadn't read this before. I know it was super hyped up on Book Talk and lots of other places. I am a second chance romance girly. Something about it makes my heart like swell up and feel all of the feelings that no other book, no other type of trope like makes me feel. This book was so similar to Love in Other Words. I like looked up when it was published. I love Love in Other Words. It's one of my favorite books of all time. And this book was super similar. So I liked it because it was super similar, but also so similar. But I enjoyed it. It didn't hit as hard as Love in Other Words, but it was good. It was a good, like, second chance romance book and summery vibes. But if you ask me for a second chance romance recommendation, I'm recommending Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. But nonetheless, I enjoyed reading it. So it's always nice to enjoy reading a book. After that, I listened to A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. I am not a sci-fi girly. I have watched some sci-fi shows, some like space opera shows like The Expanse. I've watched some cyberpunky things like Altered Carbon that I like really, really enjoyed. But for the most part, sci-fi is not what I gravitate towards. I saw this book described as like cozy sci-fi, like cozy cyberpunky sci-fi. So I thought I would give it a go. So I gave it a go. I'm trying really hard. I'm trying really hard to expand my genres this year. So I'm proud of myself for giving it a go, but like there's a reason that I don't normally read sci-fi. It's just kind of not my thing. The way that I think about sci-fi is I read books to kind of escape current day reality and society. And I feel like sci-fi, particularly as a genre, is like pretty philosophical of thinking about, okay, but what if there are aliens from a different world? What if there are robots? What if like we're kind of dystopian or technology driven, and how then is society changing? And like really digs in about the inner kind of pieces of human psyche. And I see why it's so attractive for so many people. For me, like that's just kind of not what I'm looking for in a book. I will say, if you like the movie WALL-E, you're probably gonna like A Psalm for the Wild Built. I'll leave it at that. After that, I read The Moth Keeper, also by Kay O'Neill, also a beautiful graphic novel. I didn't enjoy it as much as the Tea Dragon Society and the Tea Dragons because like I was partial to the Tea Dragons. They were so darn cute. But The Moth Keeper was also wonderful and like very heartfelt about finding your place and what are you meant to be doing in your community and how communities can kind of rally together around a person when they need it and they might not know that they need it. So I would recommend it. Anything by Kay O'Neill, basically, I've found I would recommend because their art is so beautiful. After that, I had been switching up my genres so much that I thought, you know what I need? I need a little romance book. I need something on Kindle Unlimited. I need something I can just like not think about and fly through. So I picked up Off to the Races by Elsie Silver, and I loved the Eaton brothers books. Kate Eaton, love it. I loved it. Off to the Races was Elsie Silver's debut novel, I believe, and you can definitely see how her writing has progressed in her later books. This one was kind of meh for me. She writes powerful and like empowering female characters that you can like really get into. Like her leading women are badass and I love them. The main guy in this one, just okay. I wasn't obsessed with him. It was fine. It did the job. It did what it needed to do. But like, if I were gonna pick it up, if I were ever gonna reread a book, I would be rereading Powerless. Okay, so then I mentioned that I'm filming this vlog video, which like I'll talk more about, but I read 2 books as part of that. They were both arcs. They have both since published. The first one was Once More with Feeling by Alyssa Sussman. This is a second chance romance book, and it follows a former teen pop star and a former boy band member who kind of had this big clash and scandal, and it ruined her career. And now they're both working on Broadway and they're working the same show, and they kind of have to deal with that. You guys, I love second chance romance so much. This book did not hit the mark for me. I just like did not care about these characters at all. I could not get into them. There actually was 3 timelines going on, and that just like felt like it took up so much space in the book that otherwise we would have been like kind of falling in love with these characters and the points that they were at. It just wasn't a hit for me. This book would be great if you did musical theater, if you were super nostalgic about summer camp. I didn't have a great experience with either of those things, so I think that might have kind of turned me off about it. But I like see how this book is going to be popular with a lot of people. Unfortunately, I just didn't vibe with the characters, so it wasn't for me. But I'm still really grateful that I got an advanced reader's copy and got to read it before it came out. That was cool. The next book that I read as part of that vlog is Even If the Sky is Falling, which was a collection of short stories all focused around the same event, and it was super multicultural, super diverse. The representation was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. You will hear more about it in the vlog. Finally, the last book that I read was another short story, and that was Evidence of the Affair by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one is on Kindle Unlimited, and in addition to Kindle Unlimited, it has the free like audio version with Audible that comes along. It might have been an Audible exclusive now that I'm thinking about it. Either way, I listened to this on the plane, and it was like an hour-long audiobook. It's a short story. It's all told in the form of letters between 4 people, 2 spouses, but each person with the other person's spouse. It was the only Taylor Jenkins Reid book I hadn't read up to this point. Now I have read her full, all the books that she has written. I've read every book that she's written, and she's an auto-buy author for me. Some books I love way more than other books, but I will read all of her books. This one was really good. Like, for a short story, it was amazing how much character depth she packed in, and it had a little twisty twist, so it kept me intrigued. Wow, this video is probably so long, you guys. 21 books. How do you talk about it in a short amount of time? We will see in editing, but yeah, like I said, it's been a big goal of mine to read various genres, and I feel like I did that this month, so that's exciting. I have some books lined up for June that I'm excited about, and I'm hoping to maybe throw in some like thriller, maybe a horror book. I'm a scaredy cat, but we'll see if I can throw in kind of thrillers, mystery, horror, maybe like another historical fiction, something to keep that genre flow going. yeah, as always, if you've read any of these books and want to talk about them, please drop a comment. I would love to chat about them. You can check me out on my Bookstagram and comment there at Rosie Rose Reads, the same as here. Yeah, I love filming these videos. These are my favorite types of videos to film, and they are so fun. And I love this booktube community and watching everybody else's monthly reading wrap-ups. So that's it for this month's monthly reading wrap-up, and we will do another one in June, I am sure. But for now, that is all. And until we meet again, I hope you have a 5-star read. Bye.